It's episode 685 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm talking about the Rough Riders absolutely smashing the win surge in Game 1 of this championship series and Jack Leiter being on the hill to close it out for a potential championship in his first season. Plus, a little look ahead at this series against the Mariners. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 27th, and your Rangers are 65 and 87, heading up to Seattle for a 3-game series, their last of the year, against the Mariners, starting tonight. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, the Texas League Championship Series, the best of 3 series, got started on Sunday, and the Rough Riders just absolutely exploded on the win surge. This was an 11-3 victory. It is, again, like I said, a best of 3. So the Rough Riders, have a chance to win it with Jack Leiter on the hill on Tuesday night. But this was a thrashing, an offensive, just buku of runs by this Rough Riders team. Just 11 runs, which is not something that's out of the ordinary. This is something that this Rough Riders offense has done. They have been absolutely bopping, bashing, mashing, annihilating every single pitcher they have faced over the last month and a half. Basically, for most of the season, it's been a really, really talented Rough Riders lineup. The additions, the call-ups as of late have been really, really solidifying this lineup as a fantastic one. Aaron Zavala, Thomas Saggese, even Evan Carter as well. They have all dominated late in this season offensively and contributed in big, big ways. This was a 4-walk game for Evan Carter in the 2-hole, a 4-hit game for Jonathan Ornelas, who was playing third base. This one, Luis Acuna did work walk. Everybody in this lineup reached base at least once, and everybody except for Acuna actually reached base multiple times, including Scott Capers, the 9th-hole hitting catcher, who had 2 home runs in this one, including a grand slam and a solo shot. A big day for him, and a big day for Forney's Mason Ingort, 5 1/3 innings pitched. This is going to be his last start of the year, so it's nice to see him go out on top. His last few starts have been fantastic. He only allowed 1 run, which has earned 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. The 1 run came on a solo shot in 5 1/3 innings of work, and only 3 hits as well. So he was good at limiting those base runners. Josh Smith, the pitcher. Josh Smith worked an inning and 2/3 of scoreless baseball, and then Norden worked the final 2 innings, only allowed a pair of runs. Not a whole lot of drama there, because this was pretty much Seth Norden, by the way, the 25-year-old right-handed pitcher, worked the final 2 innings of this one. But just an offensive masterpiece, multi-hit game for Justin Foscue, who had 3 RBI in this one. Both of those were singles. All 4 of Jonathan Ornelas' hits were singles, which tied the record for the most hits in a championship, a Texas League championship game, by any Frisco Rough Riders player. Thomas Saggese had a walk and a hit as well. Kellen Strom had a triple. Thomas Saggese's 1 hit was a double off of Herman, and just a all-around really, really solid show. Like I said, this Frisco lineup has been mashing as of late, and since August 31st, this team has, let's see, where'd we go? I just put this in there 3 seconds ago. 8 different games of scoring 10 or more runs since the last day of August. 8. That is not a small number. They did a whole lot before that, but I was just trying to look up the last month. They even had a game of 16 runs, 18 runs, and 21 runs that they have scored. Granted, I think one of those games was in Amarillo, and that is a little bit of a hitter's paradise, but this was not in a hitter's paradise in Frisco. It's pretty good hitter's ballpark, but not anything crazy with ridiculously high elevation or crazy high winds. Like, this was just the offense absolutely mashing. And Jack Leiter is going to be on the hill for what is going to be his last start of the season before he goes back to Vanderbilt to go take some classes, go work out in the Vanderbilt pitching lab with some of those other former Vandy pro pitchers, mostly MLB pitchers, and maybe he can get right with whatever problem he has been facing this year, which is him missing a whole lot glove side and having a whole lot of walks. But the last time, I'm glad that he gets one more start because his last outing was not great. He didn't make it through 4 innings. He had 6 walks. He got lit up. He left with the bases loaded after walking the bases loaded in his final inning of work. And I know that's not how he wants his final start of his first pro season to end. And I hate that they don't show those numbers on his MILB player game log, but you know what? It is what it is. But the last time he was on the mound in a championship game, he helped Vanderbilt get their one win that they got in the national, or the College World Series championship series that year against Mississippi State. He started game one, and I think there could be a playbook where it goes a little something like his last time out. Vanderbilt ended up winning that game 8-2. Jack Leiter ended up going 6 innings, allowed 3 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, and a pair of runs, which were both earned. But he was able to just attack the strike zone and pound opposing hitters because Vanderbilt scored. He allowed 1 run in the top of that first inning. Vanderbilt scored 7 in the bottom of the first inning, and he was able to just cruise on to victory, attack the strike zone, be aggressive, and just go after those hitters and not have to worry as much about trying to be fine and make too many of the perfect pitches. I think that might be a little bit of what he's doing. Just use that fastball. This wind surge lineup is fine. It's pretty decent, but it's not any filled with any world beaters. Like there is no future Mike Trout. There is no future Carlos Correa. There is nobody like that on there. So just go after these guys. Use that nasty fastball. All the peripherals on his stuff are still just as amazing as they were before the season. Just go use that fastball, establish it early on in the zone, go in on guys, go away on guys. Use that disgusting curveball and slider. He threw a lot more cutters last time out. Maybe if you don't have a great feel for that, don't use it. You can just be a 3-pitch pitcher in this one. Just make sure your final outing is a great one. He has had huge walk problems all season. There's only been 2 outings where he hasn't allowed a walk, and there have been not a whole lot of outings where he only had 1 walk. He's had those 2 outings were against Amarillo on June 12th. He went only 1 inning and didn't allow a walk. So that was a planned shorter start. And then on May 7th against Arkansas at home, he went 6 innings, allowed just 2 hits and 5 strikeouts, which I still think is probably his best appearance of the season, being able to go that deep into the game. That's the only time that he has been able to go 6 full innings. He had a couple outings where he went 5 2/3, but I'm not even suggesting that he needs to do that. Just go at hitters, even if he gets lit up, even if he gets squared up by these guys. I don't know why he's so scared. He's got some of the nastiest stuff I've ever seen at the AA level, and he should just be able to go at these guys, finish out on a strong note, get back in that lab, and figure out whatever the heck the problem was with the fastball missing so much glove side. Come back next year, dominate AA, and get things right back on track for where the very high expectations were for him before this season. Coming up, we're going to get into a little bit more of what I want to see from Jack Leiter and a little bit of news about Kumar Rocker. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 online source for all your football betting this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. If you're feeling good about the Cooper Rush-led Cowboys, well, they're just coming off a win against those Giants. If you're feeling better about the Cowboys defense, maybe you can make some bets about how many sacks Micah Parsons is going to get, or the rest of the D-line, which has been, doing great. That's all kinds of fun. If you're feeling more confident about that, you can go to BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to check out all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, let's take a look about this news about when we are finally going to see Kumar Rocker in action. Not his first pro start, but his first start in minor league baseball. It's going to be October 4th. He is going to be the number 2 starter for his team. So we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. He has been in Arizona at the Rangers complex working on a throwing program since early August, but he has not faced games or face hitters in live game situations. So this will be the first time that we get to see him do that. I am so excited to finally see what he is going to do. We have waited so long. I thought we might be able to see him in high A towards the end of the season, but the Rangers wanted to be careful with him, even though he's only thrown 20 innings this year. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Maybe eventually in 20 years we might figure out what happened with that arm injury and the surgery that no one will ever tell us anything about, but probably not. But I think Kumar Rocker is, he's not the top prospect in this Rangers organization, but I think he could be the most pivotal one. Jack Leiter took a little bit of a step back this year, but I still think he's pretty much a surefire bet to be a starting pitcher for several years for the Texas Rangers. Now, how good of one? It depends on how much he can figure out this walk problem and find command of some of his other pitches besides the fastball, or even the fastball, I should say. The Kumar Rocker has just a wide, cascading range of possibilities. He could end up being just a reliever. He could end up blowing his arm out. That shoulder injury could be something that was definitely something to worry about, and that we were not quite fully informed, or the Rangers were a little too confident when they saw the medicals. But they saw him, they approved of him, so they feel confident that he is going to be what they need. I get why they did it, and Brock Porter is a great addition, and I'm really excited to see what he can do next year and where they start him. That's going to be a really, really interesting puzzle to figure out. I would assume it would be, maybe he'd start the year at low A. Maybe. I think that's probably where I would start him, just because the Arizona Complex League, it takes so long. It's so long into the season. By the time they actually start the season, they'll probably want to get him some reps, depending on what he does in spring training, how good they felt about him, who's also been doing a throwing program in Arizona. We'll see what he does. But Kumar Rocker is a big, big wild card, because if he hits where the Rangers thought he would, and being that guy with just the ridiculously good stuff, the prototypical starter's body, the ability to do that workload, and a great, great repertoire of pitches that works as an elite starter, which he had the potential of, and a little bit higher potential, some people thought, than Jack Leiter, then that could be just completely game changing for the Rangers. Or he could end up being just I think at worst, barring some catastrophic injury, or the injury that already happened being worse than we're led to believe, I think the worst case scenario is he's an absolutely disgusting reliever. There's absolutely ridiculously good reliever, which is nice, but still, for a number 3 overall pick, even if you went way under slot to get another first round talent in the 4th round, which is a smart play, it's still going to be really, really disappointing to see that. But still, I'm excited to see what he's got, how long he can go in his outings, how much the Rangers are keeping a short leash on him, what kind of pitch count he's on, all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see there. Now, I want to take a little bit of a look at this Frisco lineup, because, again, we said it is full of boppers, and I think there's a lot of future big leaguers on this Frisco Rough Riders roster, especially talking about the hitters side. I think Thomas Jaycee, Evan Carter, Ezekiel Duran obviously already is a big leaguer. Trevor Hauver and Aaron Zavala, I think all of those guys are future big leaguers. I think there's a question about Justin Foscue. I think he'll get there. I don't know how long he'll stay there. Same with Dustin Harris. Actually, Dustin Harris, I'm more bullish on him staying in the big leagues for a little bit longer than Foscue, because he has a little bit more of a defined position. Now, Jonathan Ornelas as well has pretty much penciled himself in as a future big leaguer. Same with Luis Acuna. Some of the other guys, I'm not quite as sure. I think we might see a little bit of time in the big leagues for Kellen Strom. He really made a really strong impression. Blaine Krim, he's hit well. He had that fantastic last month of the season, and I think that maybe he might get a cup of coffee. We'll see where that goes. There's not really the first base opening that I thought there might be at the beginning of the season, with Nathaniel Lowe absolutely annihilating all of baseball since the month of June, which is great. That is absolutely a great problem to have, but it does make the proposition of giving Blaine Krim his first major league appearance, getting him called up to the big leagues with the Rangers, that much more dicey. But still, this is a really, really deep team full of so many future big leaguers on this roster. It is encouraging to see. It is one of the deepest Frisco lineups we've seen since 2014, 15. It's been a hot minute. There have been some guys who have come and gone who have been legitimately really good prospects. We've only seen them for a handful of years. The last like 3 years, we saw Josh Young for a hot minute last year. Not a whole lot of time in Frisco, not a whole lot of time in the minor leagues in general for that kid, but he breezed through the system. We knew that he was going to be advanced and breezed through the system like he did. Even he would have breathed through even faster if not for those two pretty big injuries the last couple of years. But still, it's been kind of wanting, and especially this year, the pitching did take a step back in the first half, but kind of, for the most part, found its footing in the second half. We saw Cole Reagans, who is now a big leaguer, which is a really, really great thing for him. And we've seen a lot of pitchers who I think will also be future big leaguers. Cody Bradford took a huge step forward after a really, really rough first half. He has been fantastic as of late. He's going to be the Game 3 starter if it gets past Jack Leiter on the hill on Tuesday night. Mason Englert is going to be available in that Rule 5 draft. I don't know if he's going to be taken. I don't think so. But it's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Zach Kent also took some huge leaps in the second half. Antoine Kelly, we did not see a whole lot of him. Only 7 games, 5 of those were starts. Had a just really bad walk problem. 19 walks in 18 and 2/3 innings. Also had a 7.23 ERA. I think the experiment of him being a starting pitcher is over, but did have 24 strikeouts in those just under 19 innings. He also hit 4. He had 4 hit by pitches in under 20 innings. Not a super great rate. Pretty wild. Not quite effectively wild, but I think he could definitely get there. The raw stuff is really nice and would definitely play up a little bit out of the bullpen. But still, some of the other guys who were kind of on the fringe, we didn't see as much from them once they moved to the bullpen, were fringe starters. Once we saw them move to the bullpen, they did not quite live up to what was expected. Like, all right, you put these guys in the bullpen, they got some nasty stuff. Maybe they can like trim down on the walks and just absolutely eat out there. Kevin Gowdy was one of those guys, Justin Slayton and Avery Weems, and those guys really did not quite have that. Weems a little bit more so than the other guys, but still not super great. But Owen White had a fantastic year. Nice to see him back. We'll see if we can get a little bit of Owen White in this Game 2 or Game 3. He is in that Frisco pen after the months off with basically no explanation from anybody. But we'll see how all that goes. I'm excited. But be nice for Frisco to get their first championship since, I believe, 2004. We talked about that on, I believe, last Friday's episode, but still very, very cool stuff for them. Very exciting and definitely going to be fun to watch. It's going to be on MILB TV Tuesday night. Both of these games will be for free, so go check those out before you watch the Rangers face off against this Seattle team. Coming up, we're going to get into what is Seattle up to right now, the pitching matchups, and a big contract extension that is not going to be great news for Rangers fans. But first, this word from our sponsors. Now, the Rangers head up to Seattle to start their final road trip of the season. They got 3 games in Seattle, then 3 games in Anaheim, then back home for 4 games against those Yankees in the final 3 days of the season. Starting pitching matchups will be Jesus Tinoco. Tonight, he is going to be an opener versus the reigning Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray. Martin Perez will be in Game 2 versus probably George Kirby. It's listed as TBD, but going back through their rotation, it seems like it's going to be George Kirby. Then in the finale, we have John Gray versus TBD. It's probably going to be Marco Gonzalez, and I think that might be John Gray's either his last start, or I think it might be all of these guys. Well, I don't know if Jesus Tinoco is going to be a starter in the next game or whatever, but I do think this is going to be the next to last start for Martin Perez and John Gray, if my math is right, and I believe it is. That is going to be some really good match, especially Martin Perez versus George Kirby. That is a really, really talented young kid who has got a lot of really great starts ahead of him. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to be coming against the Rangers. One person who the Rangers will not see in this series is Luis Castillo, the former Reds pitcher, the multi-time All-Star who Seattle traded a boatload of prospects for this guy, and they just signed him to a 5-year contract extension worth $108 million. It could be up to 133 million with a vesting option in 2028. If he pitches 180 or more innings in 2027. There are some assurances on injuries that they will get some money from the Reds. I think that was part of the deal when they included so many prospects. This contract extension was in the books. So basically, the Rangers have another multi-time All-Star in their division who is now signed for at least the next 5 seasons, if not the next 6, if things go well for him. And this Seattle rotation has been just absolutely fantastic since they made that trade for him and his first start on August 3rd. Castillo, that is. Seattle has the third best starters ERA in all of Major League Baseball at 3.04. That was on August 3rd. Since then, over a month, a 3.04 ERA. And they have known exactly who their guys are, and they have been fairly consistent. I mean, this is the kind of rotation that could be championship contender. It's led off by Robbie Ray, who has a Cy Young under his belt, and it's also got young guys like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, who have both been very, very consistent in their starts. Actually, I might see some Chris Flexen. I'm not exactly sure of his spot in the rotation. He has 30 games under his belt, and 9 of those have come out of the pen. I don't think he's been starting as much as of late because Marco Gonzalez made the start last time through the rotation. I think the Rangers will see him on that final game of this series, and they've done pretty well against him. And I think we're probably going to see some Charlie Culberson because he has some just absolutely insane numbers against Marco Gonzalez. And I'm pretty sure that his one home run that he has this year was off of Marco Gonzalez because he just absolutely matches him specifically. But this is a really, really dangerous team, and 2 other guys who the Rangers will not see, they'll be very, very grateful not to see, are Eugenio Suarez, who's on the 10-day IL, and Julio Rodriguez, who is also on the 10-day IL. Not that they want those guys to be on the IL, wish them a speedy recovery after this series is over. It's going to be a long time coming, a over 20-year playoff drought that this team is trying to fight off, and I don't think that they're going to be able to celebrate any point in the series, even if the Rangers are swept and the team below them, Baltimore, is actually no, sorry, scratch that. My math is off, but it's Baltimore is a 7 game elimination magic number. So no matter what happens, they might lose their playoff spot, or they might seal it, or pretty much all but seal it, but I don't think they're going to be able to actually celebrate no matter what happens in this Rangers series if my math is correct. But right now they are half a game ahead of the Orioles. They are holding that third wild card spot. Excuse me, they're half a game behind. They're 3.5 ahead of Baltimore. 3.5 games ahead of Baltimore, who is just out of the playoff picture, but they are half a game behind Tampa Bay, who has the second wild card. So they are still fighting to see where they can go in that wild card series, and they have not been to the playoffs since, I believe, 2001, if my math is correct. It is one of the longest playoff droughts in all of North American professional sports. Those fans are going to go absolutely nuts when they finally do clinch, and I wish them all the best because, seriously, the Mariners fans have been long suffering, and they deserve a little bit of happiness. They're probably going to have a whole lot of it, and they're going to be really annoying, and I'm going to regret ever celebrating them in like 5 years when they become, almost as annoying as Astros fans. Probably not as annoying, but still they're going to be very, very annoying when they win so much because this team is built for the future. They have Julio Rodriguez, their superstar, locked down for the future. They got Eugenio Suarez on the cheap just because Cincinnati was like, you know what, we don't really like having good players. We almost made the playoffs last year. Instead of actually just keeping these guys under contract, we're going to sell everything off because losing is so much more fun, and I'm a dumb owner. And that's, I think, a direct quote, maybe not direct quote, but generally the spirit of the ridiculous amount of trades that this Cincinnati team made in the offseason. Just giving up on Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez, who just does nothing but hit bombs, is kind of mind-boggling to me, but I know that this Seattle team is very, very grateful for it. There just aren't a whole lot of holes in the Seattle team. Their rotation, like I said, is absolutely stacked. If Marco Gonzalez is your fifth best starter, that is a really good rotation. This year, he has gone 171 innings and has a 4.05 ERA. that is exactly what you're wanting from that guy. Even the number 6 starter in this rotation, who is listed as Luis Castillo, has gone 59 and a third innings in his 10 starts. So basically just under 6 innings per start. That is really impressive in this modern age. And of the guys who are listed as the 6 most starts made for any Seattle Mariners, Marco Gonzalez is the only one who has an ERA above 4. Everybody else is 369 or below. The third highest is Robbie Ray at 360, who is their ace. Logan Gilbert has a 329 ERA on the season. George Kirby a 330 on the season, and Luis Castillo with Seattle has a 334 ERA. Their bullpen is fantastic. We saw that the last time the Rangers have had a lot of one-run losses in Seattle because this bullpen is so dang good. Paul Sewald, Andres Munoz, Diego Castillo, Eric Swanson, former Ranger great. They have been just locked down. Penn Murphy as well has also been really, really solid for them. So just a deep, deep bullpen. They don't have a lot of guys that can go multiple innings out of their bullpen, but they have so many that are so ridiculously effective in their shorter stints that it doesn't really matter as much because they can use any number of these guys to close out games. Paul Sewald is their save leader with 19, but Castillo has 6, Andres Munoz has 4, Eric Swanson has 3, so they can really go with kind of whoever they're feeling at the moment or whoever is available. That is something that's very, very valuable. Their lineup has been insanely deep this year. They've had a lot of problems at second base. There just has not been a lot of production going on there offensively. But even J.P. Crawford, who is one of their lighter hitting players at shortstop, he plays Gold Glove caliber defense and has an OPS that's 4% better than the average shortstop, which is just kind of nuts. I mean, Cal Raleigh has got 25 homers out of the catcher position for them. Ty France, when he's been healthy in 132 games, has 20 homers for them and a 783 OPS. Eugenio Suarez has an OPS over 800, and Julio Rodriguez has been playing center field pretty much every day. He's had some injury struggles, only 129 games for him this year, but already has 27 home runs and 25 stolen bases and an 844 OPS, which leads all of their regulars. He has been so good. Their lineup is so deep and so talented, and it's young too. It's really young. Out of the everyday starters, Eugenio Suarez is pretty much the oldest. Carlos Santana, actually, now that I look at it, he is 36 years old. Mitch Haniger is 31. So maybe my math is not quite correct there. But most of these guys are under 30. Jesse Winker is 28. Eugenio Suarez is just 30 this year. And Julio Rodriguez is 21 this year. That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. It is so young. It is such a talented team from top to bottom. They could get a little bit deeper, just a little bit better. Production out of Francie has kind of fallen off in the second half, but still, like, this is just a really deep team. The Rangers have not done well against Seattle. Definitely have not done well in Seattle. So this is going to be a very tough fought series. Jared Kelenic is back up. He has really not quite lived up to his potential, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do with him. But if that's a guy who they let go because they don't really have room, that is definitely someone who the Rangers should absolutely pounce on, a guy who hit at pretty much every level as a prospect, then he got called up to the bigs and just did not do well. A former 6th overall pick who was, I believe, acquired in the Edwin Diaz trade because the Mets drafted him in 2018. So that would be a really, really good pickup for him. This year he's got an exactly 0 WAR. Last year in 93 games he had a negative 1.8 WAR according to Baseball Reference. So probably a guy to keep an eye on, I would say. He's still got, I think, one more option year, so I don't think they're going to just like cut him loose. And I don't think they have as deep a system anymore to where they're going to have a problem keeping him on the 40 man. But still, maybe a buy low trade from the Rangers might be something they might want to swing in the off season, even though they would be making their divisional rival a lot better if it worked out for the Rangers. This is a guy with immense 5-tool potential that could be an absolute steal. I don't know why I'm talking myself into this. It's probably not going to happen, but still, you got to hope on something towards the end of this season where the Rangers won't have 100 losses, but still not nearly as good a season as they wanted. But you can have some nice individual milestones, a win and delaying the Mariners, a divisional rival, in their postseason drought-ending celebration would be a nice little fun thing for the end of the season because they might do well. This Rangers team might do well in Anaheim, but they've got 4 games against the Yankees at home to end the season that I don't think are necessarily going to go well. So you got to take every nice moment as you can. This is going to be a fun series, one of the last late night series of the year. So enjoy your sleep deprivation while you can. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. Thank y'all so much for listening. For your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully. He gives you his unique perspective on the Major Leagues past and present. It is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.